So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is up, party people? Welcome to the inaugural episode of The Art of Fatherhood. I am your host, Fatherhood the Rapper, and today I have my esteemed colleague, Alex Ward.
What's up?
I'm so excited to have you here, bro. Well, I'm so excited you had me here.
Yeah, excited.
In case you guys didn't know, this is not my bedroom. We're all the way in Salt Lake City, Utah. Alex was incredible enough to connect us with his brother who has a podcast space that we're actually using today. So thank you so much. Shout out to his brother. What was your brother's name one more time?
So his name is Jared Ward.
Thank you, Jared.
He owns Luminous.
Luminous.
Yeah, they're a tech startup company here in Utah that's doing super well.
Awesome,
I'm super proud of him. They're like a ERP system, and they're trying to they're competing with SAP and NetSuite, which are like the big guys in the ERP space. So
that's incredible, man.
And his marketing strategy and content strategy, it's like for a tech company, it's just so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
man. I think that it's kind of interesting, dude. The concept of content creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be like, I had this conversation with a guy in the sauna one time. I was like,
Nice.
I was like,
just butt naked in the sauna.
Yeah, dude, for sure. We're just. I was like, man, everyone's an influencer these days.
Yes,
and I'm talking to him about this, and he goes, "Oh, I'm an influencer." And I was like, "Bro, what? You're like mid-50s, like old dude, balding a little bit. Like, I'm like, what are you influencing? Like, what's your thing?" And he's like, "Oh, I own a company. We build satellite dragnets, and I've got 1 million followers on LinkedIn."
Satellite dragnet?
Yeah, for sure.
What's a dragnet?
I mean, could I explain it to you properly?
Like slows down a satellite?
I want to say satellite dragnets are like satellite. Let's see. I'm not even going to sound. I'm going to attempt to not look like an idiot, and I'm just going to look up what is a satellite dragnet. It's humility, right?
Yeah.
If I try on this one, someone's going to be like, "Nah, dude." Let's see. Satellite dragnet. Okay. So it's to deorbit. It's a deorbiting system, right? So what that means is,
yeah. So it deploys, and then it slows it down enough for it to fall down to the earth. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Look at that.
Cool, man. See, you use your deductive reasoning. You figured it out right off the bat.
Well, it's like
me, I'm like, man, I don't want to look dumb here. I'm going to describe this in a way that sounds really bad.
Yeah.
Like, well, you ever been fishing?
Dude, sorry, just talking about space. Have you seen Tesla's, the shareholder conference that they just did like 2 weeks ago? Elon Musk led it. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like they're literally creating robots.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like what do they call it? It's starts with an O. I can't remember, but they have a name for it and everything. And they're on Gen 2, and they're projecting like 1 billion units is what he said. Like I don't know if that was an exaggeration. It's Elon Musk, so I don't know. But like 1 billion units per year could be the market cap.
That's crazy.
Maybe even more. That was like
That's wild, dude. I watched a podcast with the first recipient of the Neuralink, and dude, crazy, man. It's very interesting because he put some of the like allure and speculation to rest, where it's like, no, you can't hack into this. No one's gonna like Rickroll me permanently, like anything like that. But
is he able to? Like, how does Neuralink work? It
so
accesses
essentially the concept, and this is the way he described it. He's a quadriplegic, right? Okay. And so essentially what Neuralink does for him is when he wants to move his legs, right, or move his arms, when he thinks about it, right, like if you think about right now, I want to move my arms or legs, your brain is going to send a signal to those limbs and they're going to move, right? So for him, because his spinal cord is severed, right, it doesn't bridge that, that gap.
Yeah.
So all Neuralink is doing is sending signals to his brain, sending signals that are able to bypass that, right? Essentially bridging.
That mimic the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so the way they do it is they have these threads that they put in the brain. And essentially what it's doing is it is taking that signal, and you're able to, it's not actually completing the signal, but what it's doing is essentially helping you program your body and stuff to actually respond to that. And he can actually set it up so like he can think certain things, or he can create certain commands, and it'll move a body part, move a leg, move an arm.
That's so wild.
So man. It's not necessarily like actually doing what it sounds like it's doing, but it's still, you know, cutting edge. Yeah. Right. It's
dude, what I feel like the world is just, I think in the next 10 or 20 years we're not going to recognize it. Like it's coming fast. Like there's a name for it. Like when you, with technology and AI.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a name for it. I can't remember. But once we hit this point, it's the point of no return.
Absolutely. Where it's like an event horizon almost.
Yeah. Like once we hit this point with AI, it will basically become like exponentially. We're just like the world is just going to change.
Well,
with
dude,
the help
and it's
of
already
AI.
happening. You know, ChatGPT is a great example. They say ChatGPT has grown. So artificial intelligence, I don't know if it's specifically open AI or ChatGPT, but they say it's grown in the past like 5 years more than AI has grown in the past 25 years.
It's crazy, dude.
It's wild, man.
Well, and so I was talking about this yesterday with somebody. To me, like, because AI and robots with the AI like systems built in, like Elon was saying, like they're going to be able to babysit for us, they're going to drive cars for us, do all the menial tasks that we don't like doing, dishes, sweeping. Like in 20 years, like the commodity that's going to be the best for like humans, like what do you think? I feel like it's going to be heart-centered stuff. It's like going to be people that are actually present, that know how to connect.
Absolutely.
Less about your hard skills.
I hope so, but unfortunately, I also see the like super greedy side of society that'll turn us into slaves for like something else.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, the robots are doing all that stuff. Now you guys can do some sort of other slave labor.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's people in positions of power who will always try to exploit other human beings.
100%.
But I'll tell you what, you know what's interesting is regardless of where it's going, where AI is right now is incredible. Right? Yeah. Like just, you know, I think a lot of people are unaware of the power of even something as simple as ChatGPT. So like for me,
dude, I love ChatGPT.
Dude, I use it so much.
And I use the audio thing. Like I'll ask it. Like yesterday, I was picking apricots.
Yeah.
And like there's like these little tiny scabs on it, and I just pulled up ChatGPT. Hey, like I'm picking apricots with my daughter.
Yeah. Dude.
Like, and I see these little scabs that are just on the surface, and when I just was very specific.
Yeah.
And asked it a question like, "Is this safe?" 100%. And then it was just like, it's like, yeah, like you should be safe just scraping off like the top, or it could be some fungal infection, but if it's right on the surface, you should be fine. Just scratch it off. And it's just like, no, like, it's just wild, like what we have access to nowadays. Absolutely. You can literally get information on anything.
You know what's crazy too? So I know a lot of people have expressed concern about like ChatGPT taking over artistic spaces, right? Because now, like, great example, I had a logo made for one of my businesses the other day. I had ChatGPT make it. Then I went on Fiverr and I paid someone $30 to take that and create an an Adobe file out of it to make a vector file, right? That's crazy. So what would normally cost hundreds of dollars, we expedited the process. ChatGPT gives me a very good rough draft, and then I can pay someone, you know, a very small amount of money to fix it.
Is that how you did on the Instagram post for this podcast we're doing?
Yeah.
Was that AI generated?
Was ChatGPT.
I love.
Isn't that crazy?
I have like I downloaded an AI generated. It was right when the visual AI was coming out, where they do renders for you. You type in a description. Absolutely. So I got that, and it did like renderings of me, and it like spit out 100 of them, and some of them are hilarious.
Do you use the app for ChatGPT?
Yeah.
So dude, it's wild. Well, so you know what's cool, man, is, and I have this conversation with people a lot because I've met a lot of people who are like, man, AI is not that special. It's like, yeah, and Google wasn't that special in 1999, but
well, dude,
if you were someone who knew how to use it, like say, you know, you work in some sort of office space and your boss asks you and your coworker a question, right? And you can hop on Google 100%. And your coworker's over there flipping through the encyclopedia. Like, who's going to more efficiently solve the problem?
Yep.
Right? So, like, the fact that we have access to that is incredible. You just have to think of it in terms of, you have to be very forward thinking with it. And there's a lot of things you can do, man. You just got to start incorporating it. You know, I think it's when it comes down to it, also, it's how intelligent is the person who's using it, and what kind of questions are they asking it. But also,
well, dude, it's literally gonna replace everything.
Dude,
so like when I was at my old company, I was the director of logistics and procurement, and like the first day I used ChatGPT, I had that aha moment. I was like, this is the future. This is already, like, my first day using it. This is better than Google. 100%. I will go to this for all my questions now instead of going to Google, because it's way more straightforward. Yeah. It feels like it's a human. Like, now they even do, like, ChatGPT will, like, be your therapist.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I've done it a couple of times where it's like, yo, like, I'm, like, having a hard time. And it's like trained with all the psychology hacks.
And, you know, it's a... Sorry.
You're good.
It's pretty incredible because, you know, it's just taking the data that's already existing on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. Like it has access to the internet. It's taking all of that information, all of that data. So it's not like it's not thinking consciously yet. You know, who knows? But what it's able to do is take the information that is already being used by so many people. And I'm sure there's like a double-edged sword in that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure it could spit out some BS information, but there's also, you know, probability associated with that, where it's like its answers are statistically like the probability of them being correct. It weighs those options, right? It's a mathematical language learning model as much as anything else, right?
100%.
What's cool is I've used it in other areas of my life. Like, dude, this is a great one. And we'll use this so we don't just talk about ChatGPT forever. We use this as a caveat into fatherhood. I've used it with my kids, right? And one of the ways I use it with my kids is I write stories for my kids.
No way.
Yeah,
I love that.
So one night we're sitting there and the kids are like, Dad, tell us a story. Dad, tell us a story. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired, dude. I can't even think of a story right now. So I went through and I asked ChatGPT. I was like, ChatGPT, make a story in the theme of the tortoise and the hare about a rabbit that raps. And the idea is like, everyone thinks that the fastest rapping rabbit is the one who's going to win the rap contest, right? But it's actually the one that's lyrical and thoughtful with its words that wins, right?
Yeah.
Which is, the funny part is I took rabbit because that's the name of Eminem in 8 Mile. So I was like, this will be hilarious. Incredible children's book, dude. It's so good. Very, like, I mean, honestly, poignant.
Yeah, dude. So I use it for parenting as well. My use case is, it's like those moments with my daughter where I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, like, I've read books, like there's a good book called How to Talk to Children So That They'll Listen.
Yeah.
And it's a 2-part book series, and some other books too. But basically it's gentle parenting with boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of information. Like my vision board, the centerpiece is me and my daughter, right? And then I have this pyramid that I've built, like triangle. And on the left side, it's how I was parented growing up. Command and demand, very authoritative, very dismissive and invalidating. And then on the right side, it has the strategies, and it's 12. It has 12 strategies to basically counteract the way that I was parented. So instead of command and demand, we I can't remember the phrase for it, but it's basically just like healthier ways to go about things. So anyways, I use ChatGPT to in those moments, like, hey, based on, and it has how to talk to children so they'll listen, or how to talk to kids so they'll listen, like in its database. So I'm like, hey, based on how to talk to kids so that they'll listen, how do I handle this type of situation? And then it will give me a script like, oh, you should try this. And I'm like, yes, that's what I should do, instead of
100%
just going back into authoritative, impatient dad mode. Like, I can actually use these tools that I've read about. And
you know, it's funny because a lot of people, I think a lot of people see, I mean, me using it for children's books, you using it for that, they're like, that's cheating. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, we already live in this, like, we're already in a place where we're so connected to our phones that it's like we're already there, right?
Yeah,
this just makes it so the process is less invasive and more easily accessible, right? So like you could easily hop on Google and just look this stuff up, right? You could take this time. What's crazy is how it's becoming so integrated, right?
Yes.
How it's becoming this thing that it's like it's easy to use, man. It's second nature. We can just hop in. And then, you know, Apple just announced, did you hear about the Apple announcements about the new AI integration with their platforms?
No.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh, dude.
What they're doing is they're integrating ChatGPT, right, with Siri. And so what it's going to do...
Finally. I never used Siri because Siri's horrible.
Yeah, oh, dude. Well, so this is going to make it so you can use it with Siri. Siri will be hooked up to ChatGPT, but also it will be integrated with all the apps on your phone. So, like, for example, you could say, like, Siri, I'm headed to lunch. Look up the restaurant closest to this location. Check MyFitnessPal for my macros.
Yeah.
If I order the Szechuan chicken, is that going to fit my macros?
Bro, okay, wait. So I saw something the other day. It was this guy presenting at some tech conference. It was like these new headphones that were compatible with that had AI integrated into it. Yeah. And they said it was basically computer headphones. Yeah. So it had all these like normally. So basically, it had this person. It was at a restaurant, and he has these headphones on, right? And he's demonstrating what the capability will be in the very near future. And the dude was speaking a different language, and it's in a loud restaurant, and he's talking to his headphones. Hey, dude. He's like, hey, the background noise is a little bit loud in here. Please turn down the background volume. Boom, turns it down. And then he says, please isolate my friend Felix's voice. Dude. And then it isolates the voice. Translate his voice into English in real time. Does it in real time. All of that. Like, dude, like the future is just going to be so fucking cool. Like,
dude, absolutely. And what's cool...
sorry, one last point. To get away from this, like this black screen that we're all sucked into that's so numbing. And like that's what they're trying to do. Like expand the capabilities of technology into stuff that keeps us present, and that's the problem with these. They don't keep us present. They pull us out.
Man. I think that, you know, ultimately, dude, that's one of the largest problems with the current way we interface with our phones, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting paradox, right? Because our phones connect us with the world, and at the same time they isolate us, right?
Yes.
It's a very strange phenomenon. So like for myself, you know, I see it most with social media, right? Like in order to be successful with social media, it seems like you got to always be on social media.
100%.
But there's got to be a way to where you can do it differently. Yep. So there's this little pet project I have, and it's like I want to create a third-party app that I can log all of my social media onto, that I can post all of my content on there. It'll automatically post everything for me, and then I get emails. So comments that come in, they come to me in the form of emails.
I think they already have these.
See, they have a few of them, but none of them are integrated completely, right?
Really? Okay.
And so that's like, I mean, if any of you guys know about one that's completely integrated, dude, absolutely.
My brother posts on all the media platforms every day.
See, I want to do that without actually having to be on social media. That's the thing that I hate. I hate social media.
Yeah, dude, I do too.
And it's because what it does to me, and I've learned this through years of experimentation, right?
Yeah.
The very first YouTube video I ever published, I put it out there and I said, you know what? This is going to be an experiment with what it's like to plant a seed in the universe and just see what happens.
Yeah.
So what I did was I made a YouTube video about a workout program I had done. I called it Honest Kino Body Review. I was like, okay, that's good. Put it out there. Forgot about it. Like 2 months later, I go to check on it. It's got like 70,000 views. Yeah. It's got a bunch of engagement, you know, like
70,000.
Oh yeah, like 1,000 comments, everything. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
But much like the universe, right, which all of this is kind of leading me to believe that the universe and AI are actually like reflective of each other, right? Much like the universe and like even the natural world, gardening and shit, right? When you plant a seed, dude, you can't always come back and like you don't dig up seeds that you've planted. You don't keep looking at them. You plant them and let them grow, right? And so I feel like with social media, the problem is the way that we interact with it right now is we're planting seeds and then we're constantly checking. We're constantly like, did that get likes? Did people interact with that?
Yep.
Do I have followers? Do I, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I would like is I would like to be able to post nonstop, to still interact with people and exchange with people, to basically not hear all the bullshit. So like if people are talking shit, I don't want those emails, right?
No.
So what I'd like is a system that will post for me everything, and then it'll send me the comments in the form of email, and I can respond to them in the form of email. It'll respond to the comment, and then it filters out all the like the hateful comments, things like that.
Yeah.
And that way, the only thing I'm interacting with is literally just emails. I can send them at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
right?
nice.
And then, which, dude, I think this is the direction social media is going, right? We talked about this a little bit before. I think that authenticity is the thing that's, I think it's the thing that resonates most.
100%.
And so
that's
I think
what everybody's craving nowadays.
Dude, absolutely. I think a lot of people right now, there's a lot of like big influencers, dude, people with millions of followers who their views have crashed, man.
Yeah.
Like there's big changes in the algorithm occurring or that have occurred recently. But also, I think that people are craving something more intentional. You know, they want to connect with something real. They don't want to connect with the same vanity-driven bullshit, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's why, for me, that's why I wanted to create this podcast.
Yep.
Right? It's because I want to talk about real things, dude. You know, like,
well, even like some of the holistic wellness coaches that I follow, they put out great content, but like you're saying, like I'm attracted to the people that are the most vulnerable. That's why I love Alex Flores' stuff, right? Because he's totally authentic, totally vulnerable. He doesn't care about the views. He genuinely cares about.
And he's not manufacturing, bro.
Yeah.
Like I want someone who is not trying to cultivate a scripted persona.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I consume your content, and what I love about Alex Flores, shout out Alex, you're absolutely amazing, dude. Actually, Alex and I met in Alex Flores' group. It's called Fatherhood AF.
I love the AF.
Oh, I know, dude. It's great. We meet once a month. If you guys are interested, dude, we will absolutely check. Is it the second Wednesday or the third Wednesday?
I'm not sure, honestly. I haven't been in a minute.
I know, I've been busy.
I think second Wednesday.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible. That's actually where we met. You know, it's... But
I never knew your name was Joshua until like literally like a couple days ago.
My name's not Joshua. It's Fatherhood.
Yeah, I know, Fatherhood. Yeah, literally, because you would introduce yourself as Fatherhood, the rapper in the group. So you never used your real name.
You know what's funny, man? Is the reason I do that is for a long time. Actually, bro, this is great. This is an incredible caveat, right? And we're gonna go deep here. We're diving in, dude. So you see this crab on my neck?
Yes.
Right. Do you know what?
I've been meaning to ask about it.
Yeah, dude. I get so many people who ask me, so this is perfect. We'll clip the shit out of this one.
Okay.
So you see this crab on my neck? Do you know what a blocked throat chakra is?
I do.
Yeah. So when you have,
I did a throat chakra workshop in LA.
Perfect.
Yeah, specifically to help me unlock my throat chakra.
Incredible.
It was so good.
Yeah. So you see me, you know, in like starting to investigate these core traumas, right? One, to reel it back a little bit, to give you a little bit of like background, right, is when you become a father, what happens is you see a mirror, right? And you see all the things that are broken in you, and you see all the pain. The
strongest mirror I've ever experienced. Absolutely. I've talked to a lot of people about this. It's because kids are a perfect reflection.
Absolutely. Right. You get the weirdest deja vu. It's like, oh man, I've been here before, but from the other side.
Yes.
Right. And the thing is a lot of people, especially in the past, would look away from the mirror. They'd do whatever they could to distract themselves from looking in the mirror.
Yep.
And the deeper I looked in the mirror, the more I realized I had serious unresolved traumas. And they were traumas that I had brought up to the surface, but I was still suppressing, right? I was still pushing them so far away.
Yep.
And the biggest one was a trauma that I experienced as a child when my mom came back from Iraq. So my mother came back from Iraq in 2003. She was injured in Iraq.
Wow.
And when she came home...
What branch of the military was she?
She was in the Army. She was a paramedic. And she worked in prisons in Iraq. And because of that, she had really bad PTSD. And then she got a traumatic brain injury. She was injured in Iraq in an IED, sent home. She got medically discharged. And when she came back, there were a few times she had PTSD episodes. And one time specifically, you know, she had been home maybe a month and she was bedridden. All I remember is the curtains were always down. She was always hiding inside. And one day specifically, I wanted her to see something that I had made. And I was like, Mom, check this out. And she said, be quiet, like, go away, be quiet. You're being too loud. And I started getting like agitated, man. And I started yelling and getting loud. And she said, shut up. And I said, I want my mom back. I wish you didn't come home. You're not my mom.
Oh.
And I started like just yelling, and she said, shut up. And I just kept getting louder and louder. And, you know, we were just egging each other on. And finally, you know, she snapped. And all of a sudden I wake up on the floor, and my dad's standing there screaming at her. He's like, why would you do that? You can't do that. You know, like going off.
She knocked you out.
And she's crying, saying, I just wanted him to stop talking. Oh. She had choked me. She had literally put me in a rear naked and choked me. And just as everything was going black, my dad came in and saved the day, basically.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, bro. Super deep. But I didn't realize I hadn't actually healed from that, right? My throat chakra was blocked, right? I've been making music since I was 5 years old, man.
Dude, that's intense. Like her telling you to shut up, and then...
Oh, dude, absolutely.
I'm not surprised.
Dude, absolutely, man. And, you know, when it comes down to it, I want to clarify. I don't feel like a victim of something. I feel like I have been given the opportunity to see things from her perspective as a parent, and also just a human being. I get it. Like,
well, that was my initial reaction was, I can see both sides. I can see your mom, and not that I've never done anything close to that,
for sure,
in my parenting journey, but I can definitely understand those moments where,
absolutely,
like even just the other day, like with my daughter, like I was at my wit's end, my like at the end of my rope, and I had her the past 2 weeks, and the past 2 weeks I've had her more than my normal 50%.
Yeah.
It's just been an odd schedule. I've probably had her like 80% of the time, so just a lot more, and I'm a single dad. And yeah, at the end, by yesterday, we were triggering each other so much. Oh, yeah. And that feeling, that triggering feeling of just like, just do what I say, like, God damn it, you know?
Trust me, bro. I feel that.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, you know, it's just like you. I've seen it from the parent side. Like, I still get frustrated with my kids. You know, so many people have this idea of being healed, right? There's no such thing. It's healing. It's a healing process. It's a practice, right? Like, you don't ever get there. Nope. It's a path that you have to walk your entire life and your entire relationship with your children. Yep. Right? So my mother, this experience was, I mean, dude, it shaped so much, but the one thing it shaped is I became, like, my throat chakra was blocked. I wasn't able to, like, no longer after that would I speak up. I'm surprised.
Did you have a stutter or anything?
I didn't have a stutter. No, but I had extreme anxiety. And it also, you know what's crazy, man, is I suppressed it until I was 17 years old. And I had this teacher in high school who did a prompt she was my creative writing teacher. And she did a prompt that was like, explore what you've experienced that, like, you would call adversity. And for me, what I experienced was my mom going to Iraq, and that, you know, all of the things that came with that. And I used to get super high, and I would try and do a little bit of homework, but I loved writing. I've always loved writing. I've always loved creating. And I sat there writing, you know, just about my experience with my mom in the military, and all of a sudden it started coming back, and it started pouring out, and I started just bawling, dude. And that was the beginning of my opioid addiction as well, man. I would go, my mom is a disabled veteran, and for years she was prescribed
oxycodone.
Yeah, oxycodone. Yeah. And I would literally just steal.
They're so addictive. My dad, he had stage 4 cancer, and he hated oxycodones because he would get addicted, and he'd feel it, and it's 100%. Like he hated that dependency.
Dude, absolutely. And I leaned into it to where, like, you know, most people didn't understand. Throughout all of high school, dude, I was eating, you know, like 10 Percocet a day.
Damn,
like,
bro.
Like through all of high school. I find journals sometimes. I keep all my journals. And I've read journal entries where I literally am talking about being addicted to, I call them 232s because that's what it had said on, I can't remember if it was on the bottle that said 232 or the pill itself, but that's what I wrote in my journal. I was all cryptic about it. I was like, man, you know, like I wrote about it as if it was like love, right? Like I wrote about it in this like very like romanticized way, right? And I didn't realize, see, this is where a lot of people, they'd be like, okay, cool, drugs are bad, you know, end story. I disagree. I think drugs are benign, right? I don't think drugs are bad. I think there's traumatized people, right? And traumatized people self-medicate.
Yep.
And for me, opioids were the perfect tool to self-medicate with.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the crazy thing, right? Is if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gone so deep to explore those inner places. It was while I was high on opioids that I was lost inside this dark place inside of me. And all of a sudden I'm wandering around in the dark feeling just absolutely blissed out on some oxycodone that I stumbled across my inner child. And I was like,
yeah,
wait a minute, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm hiding from the same person you're hiding from. And just...
Dude, the first time I met, I don't know if it was a version of my inner child. I feel like there's different parts of us that exist, right? Yeah, the first time I met my inner child, it was almost like a scary experience.
For sure.
Because he was curled up in a ball.
Yeah.
Like decrepit, like anorexic, just like starving for.
Kind of like a Smeagol and
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. See, my precious,
shamed.
The ring is love, and he's just like.
Yeah, like literally shamed to smithereens.
Yeah, dude.
And all he was wanting was to just be seen and acknowledged.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, it's powerful, man. Well, so what ended up happening is I went to my teacher with this essay I wrote about the experience. Like it all just came flooding out. Kind of like music. When you write music, you enter a flow state. Like, dude, I write music and I don't think about lyrics. I'm not sitting there like, how rhymes with cow.
Yeah.
Like it just pours out of me. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, cool. I just made this thing and it's representative of what I've experienced. And that's what happened when I wrote that. Right, it just poured out of me.
I had an experience like this.
Yeah,
I'd love to share. I'm trying to tap into my musical side too. I do sound baths and just breathwork facilitation in general. Like, and I have my like a buffalo skin drum and a wave drum. But anyways, one thing I'm thinking of doing, and I practice at my home. I have a piano, and I took like 15 years of piano. I'm not good.
He's like, I'm a prodigy. No big deal.
My brother's a prodigy. I'm.
Yeah, it sounds like your brother's a prodigy and everything.
He is.
Thanks again, bro.
Yeah.
It's Jared, right?
Yeah, Jared.
Thank you so much. This space is lovely.
Lovely. But no, so what I started to do is one of my favorite songs is Canon in D, Pachelbel's Canon, I think is what it's called. And anyways, I just start playing it really slowly and just repeating it. Like there's like an 8, I think there's 8 chords that you play on your left hand, and you just do, is it arpeggios? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So anyways, I just go through the scale, and just play and mess around with it. And as I'm doing that, I just talk freely.
Dude.
And I had a really beautiful experience doing that. Like for like 20 minutes, I just kind of spoke what was coming from my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it ended up being one of the so healing for me. I was like breaking down the whole time. And yeah, my idea is I want to get my brother to come in.
Yeah.
Like for one of my sound baths and bring my electric piano.
Dude.
And just have him play and improvise and then just speak and guide people through breath work.
Dude. Absolutely, man. No, I think that's powerful. And I think there's this healing in like allowing yourself. So to tie this back into the throat chakra thing, right?
Yeah. Well, end your story. I cut you off.
No, you're good. So I went to the teacher. The teacher read it, and I was expecting her to just be like, you know those stories that are like traumatizing that you share with someone, and they're like, and you're like, oh, well, that didn't happen to you guys too? It was one of those where I like gave her the story, and she read it and was like, hey, I want to talk to you after class. And I gave it to her, and she just started crying, dude, and gave me a big hug. And she's like, I'm so sorry. Did that happen to you?
Yeah.
Like, did anything happen? Did the police get involved? Anything like that? I'm like, no. I was just told to never talk about it again. And, Yeah, dude, it was powerful because before that I had suppressed it so much that it was just didn't exist, right? Then it came up to the surface, right? Yep. So around this time, I'm maybe early 17, almost 18. And that was a lot, man. It brought up a lot. But what I did was I tried to, stuff Pandora back in the box. I just started doing a lot more drugs. I started drinking more. I started taking more pharmaceuticals. I always used cannabis through my teenage years. If anything, I truly believe cannabis actually saved me from like overdosing and things like that multiple times. Like I think cannabis has a lot of protective qualities. But I wasn't able to address it. It was such a deep wound and it hurt so much that I didn't know what to do with it. And
you needed an Alex Flores to come in.
Like, right? For real. Well, I'll tell you what, Alex has a lot in common with the plant medicines that have taught me, patient, kind, loving, right? And just the strongest space holders.
Yep.
And so what ended up essentially happening was I put it off. And then I went to college. I'm in college and I have a girlfriend. It's a toxic relationship, mimicked heroin basically, or mimicked opioids basically. And then her and I broke up and I started doing heroin, right? Like it was one of those, I had quit opioids actually for like maybe 3-4 months and just used cannabis. And I started using heroin, right? And it was a crash and burn, man. Just so, like, it was like the first time I did heroin, I remember thinking, oh my God, this is the solution. Like this is better than, dude, this is better than anything. And I was doing so well in school and so well with my job that I was like, oh, dude, I could do this. I could do all this.
I really liked the video you put out a couple days ago where you're explaining. Was it you? Like the different drugs have different, like cocaine will make you feel.
Yeah, dude.
I can't remember what you said, but
I said like really... when I did cocaine, it made me feel like I could save the bees and also create an empire by 3D printing beehives. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Just very ambitious.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think
it's like Adderall. When I take like Vyvanse, I'm prescribed Vyvanse. I'm ADHD, and I rarely take it. I'm like rarely, but when you get on it after not being on it for a long time, you like go into, me and my brother call it Professor X. Like you go into Professor X mode where you're just like
you're scribbling notes on your whiteboard up there, like notes on notes on notes.
Like literally, yeah. And before you can even get started on everything, like you have to clean your whole house.
Yeah, dude.
Like the whole house has to be spotless, and then you can get ready. Get
so going. Funny, but long story short, the reason I have this neck tattoo, I guess I'll finish that up.
Yeah.
I've made this such a long story about my neck that I can't even clip it now. So I'll just hit you with this. The reason I have my neck tattoo is because my throat chakra was blocked, right? And in blocking it, I kept myself from sharing my truth, right? From a young age, one of the things I did to express that truth is I wrote raps. From the first time I watched 8 Mile as a little kid, I wasn't allowed to watch it. My sister and her friends were watching it. I sat on the stairs watching it. I was like, oh, cool. And immediately the next day I go to school and I'm like, my bullies, man, I go find them. I'm like, we're going to have a rap battle.
Hey, that's
I'm like,
cool.
Yeah, this is perfect. So I go to all of them. I'm like, meet here after lunch. Everyone, create your raps and we'll come back here and we'll battle. And they're like, one of them's like, that sounds dumb. And the other one goes, no, I saw 8 Mile. Let's do it. I'm like, cool. And it's funny because I remember to this day what the rap was. I hit him with, you're going to take a bath in my wrath. You're going to be dead before you hit your bed. You're going to bleed the color red. And,
my God. That's like,
dude, the teacher heard it, dude. And the next day, they call me down to the office. And they're like, Joshua, have you ever heard of Columbine? And I was like, bro, I was a little kid. I think I was 6, something. I was in...
Bro, that's dark that they would like...
Oh, bro, but it was, it was right after Columbine. It was a few years later.
That's fair.
And so they said to me, Joshua, have you ever heard of Columbine? And I was like, no, what's that? And they're like, some boys who said some things an awful lot like what you said hurt a bunch of other kids. Do you want to hurt other kids? And I was like, no, I don't. And, man, they brought like a therapist in to talk to me and everything. And, man, I didn't have any friends. It was a real tough spot, right? And throughout my entire life, dude, I always wrote raps in my journals. Like, it was always a way for me to express myself, right? But I was always so afraid to speak that into existence. I get terrified because of that blocked throat chakra, right? And at some point in my journey of self-discovery and going through the kind of psychedelic journey, I realized this, and I realized it was symbolic of my mother. But the parts of my mother that created the throat chakra was the fact that I saw myself in my mother. And so the thing that I wasn't allowing myself to express myself because I saw myself as her. Like, I used to do drugs, and I would see her in the mirror when I looked at myself.
Whoa.
And so me not talking was a way of blocking her from speaking. Right? It's trippy, man.
Wait, say that one more time.
Me
not talking
was a way of me blocking her because I saw her reflection in me. So it was my way of blocking her.
Whoa.
Dude, it was heavy, man. It was heavy. And this came to my realization, man, during an ayahuasca ceremony. And when that came to my realization, I had a crab. It was this crab. And my mom's a Cancer. I'm also a Cancer. So it was symbolic of
Cancer.
that. Yeah, dude.
No way.
The crab wrapped around my neck.
Dude, no wonder we get along.
Yeah, for sure.
So Cancer, I think it's Cancer and Virgo are supposed to be like, super compatible with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways. My birthday's in a week too.
Oh, okay, dope.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's but yeah, man. So when I took ayahuasca, I saw that crab wrapped around my neck, and I processed it. And as I processed it, the crab released itself and just sat there. It was like, I'm always gonna be here, right, as a reminder. But I won't stop you from talking anymore.
Bro, that's so cool.
And I was just like, damn. Like, me and my wife, we ended up doing a MDMA ceremony at the time. Like a few months later, so cool. A very healing ceremony. And I had her paint the crab from that experience on my neck. And she painted it on my neck. And I just remember being like, I can wear this. Like, this is mine to own. And I put it on my neck, man, and it's I don't know, 6 months later, I got the crab tattooed on my neck, and it's been there ever since.
Okay, I love it. Yeah, such a cool story. Can we talk about plant medicine? If we're gonna be talking about ayahuasca and stuff,
please.
I want to talk. Just really give it some context.
Please do. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm down.
Because you've I just want to talk about it because you've been really into the plant medicine world.
Absolutely.
And I have too.
Yeah.
You did iboga.
Yeah.
Which iboga is like one of the craziest in terms of duration.
For sure.
I don't know. I've never done iboga, so.
Yeah, iboga is interesting. I would say, I mean, dude, it's so interesting, man. I think that plant medicine is it's a really powerful tool, and it's something that I've utilized, right? I've utilized it a lot in different areas of my life. I'm happy. What do you have anything specifically you'd like to hop in on with the plant medicine? I'm open to. I mean, there's so many different directions I could take it. I'm super open. Actually,
yeah.
Let's see.
I'd love to just tell my story.
Yeah, please do.
Because I want to get it out there. I am a psychedelic facilitator.
Absolutely.
Right. I'm certified through Sound Mind Institute. I did a year-long, not quite a year-long, but almost a year-long program, and just really got to meet. They would have a guest lecturer come in almost every single week, and these were lecturers that are very well known in the research that's going on with psychedelics right now with MAPS.
I love it.
Anyway, so we got to meet and ask questions from the people that are leading this charge. And so anyways, I like to contextualize it and then also give some insight into what drew me to plant medicine.
Absolutely.
And why it was so impactful, because I come from a conservative, my whole family's conservative. Yeah. Not a single one of them would ever understand why I would go and do ayahuasca or these other things. And to me, there's always going to be this negative connotation. Maybe not. Maybe there's some nuance there. I would hope so, because that's the thing. Like MDMA, or sorry, psilocybin assisted therapy, that's going to be legalized hopefully by 2025. That's the estimate. Yeah. Just like ketamine. Ketamine was legalized years ago. 100%. That was the first psychedelic, anesthetic psychedelic to be legalized. Then psilocybin's going to be next. Yep. Then MDMA, I think, is 2026 is the projected date.
What's interesting is they originally said MDMA was 2024, right? Psilocybin is technically legal in Colorado.
Yes.
However, it hasn't been regulated
yet. It's Oregon. So Oregon, I think it was Oregon who really spearheaded. Or is it
Portland? So is the whole state?
I think it's the whole state. So there's a loophole that we studied about because we were actually, like, my certification was for psilocybin. Yeah. Like a facilitator for psilocybin and ketamine. Oh, wow. And the psilocybin piece was really only if I was going to be practicing in Oregon. So anyways, Oregon they found a loophole to basically...
Is that my phone or yours?
It's Jared's. I know. I wish I knew how to turn it off. Let me...
Cool. Sorry about that. I want to hear your story. I'm absolutely fascinated.
Yeah. So no. Anyways, Oregon found a loophole where basically they didn't have to wait until the MAPS clinical trials were complete.
Gotcha.
So I think psilocybin's in phase 3 of clinical trials right now, and then MDMA might be phase 2. I can't remember, but Oregon and I think Colorado now. I think Colorado is probably using something similar, like this, a similar loophole that Oregon used. So, anyways, it's all coming. Like, that's the thing. Like, and this is how I tell people. Psychedelics right now are literally, like, this is like groundbreaking stuff in the field of psychology. Like, all the big pharma medications that we're pumping into people, benzodiazepines, Lexapros, anti-anxiety. Like, what's the main anti-anxiety? It starts with a Z. I can't remember. Xanax.
Yeah. Well, it's a X. X-A-N-A-X, but
yeah.
it sounds with a Z.
That's right. But anyways, psychedelics are blowing these out of the water.
Absolutely.
Like, one macro dose of psilocybin mushrooms, it doesn't cure, and that's the thing. I don't want to treat psychedelics as a silver bullet.
Do you mind? I'm gonna interject with one thing, and then I want to continue on that. The thing about psychedelics that I think people maybe don't understand is that it's not necessarily the pharmaceuticals that are failed, right? It is the model of treatment paired with the pharmaceuticals that has failed. So psychedelics, it's like treating symptoms versus treating the root of problems. And psychedelics, they treat the root of the problem as opposed to this symptom chasing, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, you're nauseous, here, take a little bit of this. Like, oh, but psychedelics get to the root where it's like, wait, why are you nauseous? Like, what's causing this? Right?
Yes, 100%.
So please continue. I just wanted to share that with you guys. So that as you're talking about this, they kind of have a little bit of background on psychedelics and why they're so powerful and why that exists like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I
So you were at Colorado and Oregon have similar loopholes that they've used, and in facilitation you are
ketamine and psilocybin.
Yeah, you're training. You were talking about psilocybin and how one macro dose of psilocybin.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, all these clinical trials that are going on, they're treating people with complex PTSD with treatment-resistant depression. So basically, depression that, after cycling through a bunch of different medications, doing talk therapy, doing everything that you can possibly do to treat this depression, it's resistant, right? Like it's resilient. It doesn't go away, right? So they're treating people with this, and then also end of life. Yeah. So this hits close to home to me. Like, I have an uncle that passed away from stage 4 cancer. Yeah. Like 3 or 4 months ago, and then my dad passed away from stage 4 cancer as well. I really wish I would have known about all this stuff. Like if I would have been where I'm at now when my dad was going through all this stuff, I would have really tried to help him get into like a trial or something and do a psilocybin trip, because it helps so much with end of life stuff.
Absolutely.
It allows you to confront
confront
death.
Have you experienced that in your own plant medicine use? Do you feel like you have a better relationship with your mortality now?
100%, dude. And I'm hesitant to use the word knowledge or like knowing, because in Mormonism we use that all the time. I know that this is true, right? So I'm very hesitant to go there, but what I will say is that there's a point where if you let go of this tether to reality and you let go of your ego body, what's on the other side of that? And this is to me the most beautiful thing. What's on the other side is pure love.
Yeah.
And when you experience it, like, you can't forget it. Like, to me, that's why I have this tattoo. Right? Like, just right there. My one tattoo.
Boom.
Hey, let's go. Yeah. But no, I like to me, it's like Om to me represents the other side, and the Grouch, Alex Flores. Like, I remember my first time in the woods with him, listening to that song, "The Other Side." Let me take you to the other side. I'm gonna take you to whatever it is. Yeah. But like the other side being this space of pure, unconditional love. Yeah. And while I don't have a knowledge, I can say with a lot of certainty that I'm not scared of death. Yeah. Because if the other side is what I've experienced. Yeah. And like that's where I'll go. Like if I'm on my deathbed, like I'm just gonna fucking like in my mind I will just be going to the Om state. So wherever that takes me, who knows? But but I'm sure it can't be that bad. So yeah, dude. So anyways, back to what I was saying. Like end of life care, treatment resistant depression, CPTSD, it is just blowing everything out of the water.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to see, and I'm so excited for these things to be legalized and for people to get really, really good therapy. Because like you touched on it, like I think that I've done so much talk therapy, and I'm sorry, like talk therapy and like CBT, that's like cognitive behavioral therapy. I did find a therapist finally that I get along with, and that has helped me significantly. But he happens to also be into holistic wellness, and he's a Reiki teacher. So I think that's why like his CBT helped me worked. Because he could actually go to other places. But anyways, I say all that because you take a psychedelic, and I think somatics is such a big thing right now, and like somatic therapy, I think it's a burgeoning field right now.
I was just talking this morning to that. My friend, I was telling you about the one who I met, the one who is works for Salesforce.
Yeah.
The journalist, storyteller. We were talking about that this morning, dude. You're 100% spot on.
Dude,
somatics is
it's somatics, and then they call it. So when in my facilitator training program, we were trained in. I think they call it family systems.
Yeah. 100%.
So family systems, we called it parts work.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, and basically what it is, and this is, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is accurate. I think that what they're finding the most success, if you had to choose one style of treatment,
yeah,
CBT, DBT. EMDR, hypnosis, like all these different types of therapy. If you had to choose one, internal family systems is the best that's paired with psychedelics. So parts work, because parts work is really gets into the somatics, more so than any other therapy. So like the idea is we have all these different parts within us. Your protector parts, your firefighter parts, all these different parts that serve different purposes. And in a psychedelic setting, when people enter that theta, is it theta? I can never remember. There's like different. It's like almost the hypnosis or meditative state that you enter. When people are in that state, and it's basically, and this is why ketamine is so good, because ketamine, it disassociates you enough to where you're not like your body. It allows you to go places that you wouldn't normally go, because we all have walls up. We have those protector parts that will literally come. That's why cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, why it can be so hard, like talk therapy, because you have these walls up. You're still interacting with a human being that you don't know if you trust or not. Absolutely. Where psychedelics take down the wall almost immediately, and then boom, all of a sudden you can go in and you feel things like, this is like, I like imagining like a table. So like all these different parts of us, and you can like get into like, okay, your 3-year-old self, your traumatized teenage self, like all these different parts of you, they're sitting down at this table, and you're basically giving them a voice. Yeah. Like it's like we just talked about our inner child, like giving that person, you know, my decrepit, shamed teenage self a voice at the table, and listening to them and validating them and being there for them.
You know, it's like we were talking about earlier with the concept of, you know, if we're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, right? If you and I are just different iotas of God, or different nodes of God and consciousness and the universe, right? Yeah. Then what you're doing is you're holding space for yourself. And you're allowing yourself to be seen, and ultimately, in turn, you are healing yourself, right? And I think there's something powerful about observing and holding space for yourself, you know, which is why it's funny, man. That's where the work really like starts, right? Is when you transition out of a space of like seeing the world as this thing that's like interacting with you, and start going within and seeing yourself and the way that you are experiencing the world, right? Like like going into the internal framework of the parts, like you said, and really being able to take inventory and see like, oh man, like this exists here, this exists here, right? That's when the work begins, right?
Know thyself.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
Once you know, it's to break it down into a really simple way, right? Know thyself. Also, it's like you are, it's cheesy, but it's the whole like, you can't like, you can't be better for me, like you can't do better for me, I can't, like, man, maybe you know what I'm trying to say is like, in order to heal, we heal ourselves, right? So it's like, it's not about healing. So if, for example, you and I, if we have a problem, it's not about like me, like, oh, how do I fix Alex? It's like, no, how do I take care of me so that in turn I can come to the table with you? How do you take care of you so that you can come to the table with me?
Exactly.
You know, that what's interesting though is there's this aspect of that that's perceived as like egoic. Right? Like that's one of the common things that you see when you first get into plant medicine, and especially if you come from a family that's very resistant to it, right? Then you're going to start talking about your experience in a way that your family will very possibly label as like selfish, egocentric, self-absorbed, things like that. But ultimately it's
and that comes from a very poor and rudimentary understanding of basically this hodgepodge of Eastern philosophy and New Age spirituality that is like so ingrained in the plant medicine community. Absolutely. But like, if you truly understand it, because that's the thing, they have a rudimentary understanding, and they just brush it with a broad stroke. Oh, he's saying like God is within you, and he is
he's
God.
Saying he's God. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like that's not 100%. What we're saying,
dude. That's the biggest.
What is what we're saying? But
that's the biggest issue I think a lot of Christians have. Right? Is Christians are very quick to be like, no, like New Age spirituality is like devil worship, all this, and it's because they're taking what Yeshua ben Yosef said, and they're taking it and turning it into like literalism, right? It's like the whole Bible is written in allegory and symbolism, and they're like, no, this is literal, right? It's like the combination of literalism and symbolism, right? It doesn't make sense, right? If you look at that character in the Bible through the lens of allegory, it makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. Like the whole, all the scripture makes sense when you look at it through that.
So I was so into like the New Testament, Old Testament. I went through like an evangelical Christian phase after I left the Mormon church, and all I can say is recently I love the New Age. I don't know what to call it. Like just all the spiritual groups and spiritual channels that I'm into right now. And I always have skepticism. Like I'm never going to be indoctrinated like I was in Mormonism. Like you said,
truth, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the idea of Christ consciousness and the way that this spiritual community that we're kind of in, that the way that they describe it and this reframing of Jesus and what he represented, the allegory, not the literalism.
Absolutely.
It's so powerful.
Absolutely. It's interesting.
You know, and how it represents that we all need to basically crucify the ego.
Yeah, dude.
And Jim Carrey talks about this.
Dude.
Yeah.
Have you, you know, one of the more profound experiences I've had with Christ consciousness was Vipassana. Have you done Vipassana?
I've never done a Vipassana, but I really want to.
Dude, it's incredible. It's out of all the plant medicine I've done,
really,
silence for 10 days.
Bro.
Oh my gosh, crazy.
Was there sensory deprivation too, or was it just
no? So I mean, I just did technically, if you go through Dhamma.org, like the actual Vipassana courses, you're not allowed to do sensory deprivation until you've done a certain number of courses.
Makes sense.
So you have to do a 10-day. I think you have to do 5 10 days. Actually, I don't know how many 10 days you have to do. To be honest, I can't even think off the top of my head how many you have to do. But I know there's like levels of it. So you can do 10 days, and then you can do 20 days. You can do 30 days. You can do multi-month. You can do, in Thailand, they have like ones that are done only at night, right? So you switch your sleeping schedule.
There's one, I can't remember what it's called, but I get advertised it. But they basically take you into caves, and you're there for, I think, 3 days.
Yeah, dude.
And everybody comes out of it just totally transformed.
Incredible. Well, what's wild about Vipassana and just meditation in general, right, is it's very systematic, the way that you're I mean, look at it like this, right? Your brain is a computer. Your brain is like that camera, right? That camera is able to collect a picture of data, right? But it has to essentially like reduce the amount of data into the image, right?
Yeah.
Like the difference between a raw image and, you know, a not raw image. I don't know what the word is for that. But the difference between a JPEG and a raw image, right, is the amount of data that exists in it. Well, so just think about how much data you experience just in a general, like right now, right? We're having this conversation. There's microphones, mic stands, lights, cameras. We're in this room. There's ceiling tiles. There's so much information that exists in here, right? What happens when you remove all of the information, right? What happens to the brain? What do you start experiencing? And so for me, what I started to experience was, in the silence, the background noise began to disappear. And I was left alone with my thoughts, and I started to see a relationship between sensation, where it's like, oh, okay, so I like good sensations, things that feel good, and I don't like things that don't feel good, right? And my whole life is this teeter-totter back and forth between attachment and aversion, attachment and aversion, attachment and aversion. And when you create separation with that by sitting in silence and meditating, all of a sudden you realize, oh man, I've been narrating my experiences, right? Like I tell myself this story, and that's mostly what the background noise is my brain interpreting data.
Yes.
Right? And so when you turn
it's the
off...
monkey mind.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah. I was going to say,
please do.
like with so tying this back to parenting, maybe even psychedelics, like for me, meditation, breathwork, psychedelics, all these different holistic modalities, you know, choose which one. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
But to me, it gives you. I'll just speak to breathwork. Breathwork allows me to create space, basically to be able to, you know, take a deep breath, to quiet the monkey mind, get back to this place of centeredness. So I'm not reacting, and I'm responding. I'm truly responding, and like, this is everywhere online nowadays. Alex talks about it almost every day. I feel like he talks about this stuff, but it's been so helpful for me. Because one of my goals as a father, one thing I noticed, like back to this, that really triggered that mirror
Yeah.
Like I saw myself so clearly, like the aspects of basically when growing up, my parents were totally impatient. My dad, I could never do anything right. Me and my brother could never do anything right. And he was just always very impatient with us. And I see that so clearly in my relationship with my daughter when she was 1 or 2. And I just committed early on, like, I do not want to be impatient. And that's what breathwork has allowed me. Like, I could get emotional. Like, I could, and I have. Yeah. Like, just, I'm so happy how far I've come.
Yeah.
And,
dude, absolutely.
That now I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I would say that now I'm probably 70 to 80% of the time I'm patient.
Yeah.
And I'm responding. And then, you know, the other 20%, you know, we all have it. Parenting is fucking hard, man. We all have days and moments.
Being human, this is something Alex talks about a lot, is grace, right?
Yeah.
Is giving yourself grace. And I would say, you know, like, I say this in my window cleaning business, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not the best window cleaner. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the best window cleaner. I'll tell you what I am. I'm the most integrable window cleaner. Yeah. And what that means is I have the ability to take accountability for my actions, right? So being a parent, dude, for me, what it means is I'm going to try my best. I understand that I'm going to slip up.
Yep.
When I slip up, right, I'm going to catch myself, right? I'm going to try and correct myself as quickly as possible. But guess what? When I don't, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take full accountability, and I'm going to sit with my child. I'm going to be honest about the fact that I lost my cool. Yes. Like, hey, buddy, Daddy fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for yelling. I'm sorry for getting frustrated.
Yep.
That's not what I wanted to do. Daddy felt some big feelings, and Daddy felt like he had to express those and didn't know how, and I should have chosen to use some of my tools. And then you can interact with your kids too. You can be like, what kind of tools do you think I should have used, man? What do you think I should have done better? And your kids will straight up, like, dude, my 6-year-old, he'll straight up tell me, he's like, yeah, I think you probably shouldn't have gotten so frustrated. He's like, you know, like, and they'll straight up tell you, kids, they don't, bro, they'll be so honest with you.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, yeah, you probably should have, you know, you tell us to breathe, you probably should have breathed, you know, and you're like, yeah, you're right, I should have.
Yes, 100%.
You know, like, dude, my relationship with my mother would be so much better if my mother at any point in time would be willing to sit down and be like, yo, I fucked up, man. I'm so sorry for hurting you.
Yep.
But it's not, it's the fact that she's so hurt that she's closed off to even looking at it. You know, I'm such a mirror for her that she can't look in that mirror.
Yeah.
Right? Looking in that mirror it's certain death, because it's ego death, right? And I mean, that's what children provide you with, is constant ego death if you'll accept that opportunity and that responsibility. You know?
Absolutely, man.
It's powerful, man. What with your daughter, you know, what sort of experiences have you had with that mirror to where you're actually, like, you're noticing these changes? Because the way you've described it, you said, you know, you saw the way that your dad treated you, right? And you promised yourself that you were going to try and be different, right?
Yeah.
What sort of, like, trajectory have you experienced? Like, because, you know, I want people to know, you don't just start out perfect, man. You have kids and you learn, right? So many people, there's this narrative that goes around right now. It's like, don't have kids till you're healed. It's like, you can't possibly heal the parts of yourself that your kids will reveal to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because
that's so good.
It's going to be something completely different. It's like the idea of training for a war, right? Until bullets are flying over your head, you don't know how you're going to respond and react. You don't know what sort of trauma response you're going to have.
Yep.
Right. So what's your trajectory looked like, you know, from the beginning, from the moment your daughter was born till now? Tell us about it, man.
Yeah, I mean, like 0 to 1, that age was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Not my favorite. I take that back. Like, I love every aspect of our, even like now. Right now is such a fun age and a difficult age.
Yeah.
She's 4.5. But no, 0 to 1 was just like, what wasn't really too much of a mirror at that point, if that makes sense. She's just so pure and innocent, and like, you're just like cuddling with her, and I felt like she was pretty easy. Like, we got her going down for bedtime like pretty quick.
That's why I have so many kids, man.
Sleeping through the night.
Because they're so easy when they're babies.
Yeah, and I love the baby phase, and like my daughter, like she doesn't cuddle too much. Like she does now, more so now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 1 to 3 didn't really cuddle at all. Just super independent, wanted to do everything herself. So the 0 to 1 was just, I just love that age where you can just like hold them right here. Oh, so beautiful. And really, I would say it was once she started to walk and be more vocal and kind of test boundaries, where the mirror started to be held up to me. And what I started to notice over time was I'm chronically impatient. Chronically impatient, dude. And I would start to hear my dad. I would start to hear my dad just like in things that I would say to my daughter. And half the time I didn't even know. It's like, why am I so impatient? Like, why? Like, sometimes it would be like bedtime. Like, I had to get her to stick to the schedule. And like, if she got up in the middle of the night, I'd be like super like authoritative. Like, you're going to bed, and she'd be freaking out. Like, especially you know how it is. Like, nighttime, they wake up and they're out of it, and they are just like dysregulated
little zombies, man.
Like, what is this, like a demon?
Yeah.
Like, what?
My daughter right now, she's doing that where she wakes up in the middle of the night. My oldest, she's 5, and she's doing this thing where she keeps having nightmares, and she'll wake up and she does not want to go back to bed. She's like, I want to get in your bed. And I'm like, you can't lay in my bed. I don't have enough room. Like, I got a baby in here. You know, we co-sleep with the baby. Yeah. I'm like, I don't have the room for you. I'm sorry. So what I'll do is I'll sit there with her. Literally, I'll sit next to her bed and like pat her back or talk to her. But it's funny, man, because I experienced the same thing where it was infuriating at first. And my trauma reaction is like, get angry, get frustrated.
Yep.
This is how it is.
My book calls it command and demand.
Yeah. And all that does is it's this like escalation of force, dude.
Yes.
Like, all you're doing, you're fighting fire with fire. And what does that do? It creates more flames, right? Yes. And so what I've learned is, for me, all I can do is be like the water in that situation. If she's fired up, then all I can do is like if she's afraid, for example, all I can do is literally be like, sweetheart, you're so brave. I love you so much. That was just a dream. You know, I'm gonna sit here right with you. You can't get in my bed, so I create a boundary, but then I comfort her through that boundary. Yeah. Right?
That's the idea of gentle parenting too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gentle parenting with boundaries.
Exactly. I think a lot of people, they hear gentle parenting. Some guy in the sauna the other day, he's like, yeah, my brother, he just had a baby and he doesn't want to do the cried out method. What? That's so dumb. That kid's gonna be spoiled. And I'm like, dude, no, dude. Babies need comfort. They're still dependent on you for resources. But I apologize. I took you away from your train where you were going there talking about your trajectory with your daughter. So please don't let me run us off too far there.
Well, yeah, no. So I just started to see myself, see my dad.
Yeah.
And my mom to a certain extent, but more so my dad, just on full display. Yeah. And so, like around bedtime, like this need to have this set structure. And structure is good for kids. I'm not going away from that, but like almost like it was more about me and like the structure and the authority than it was about her. And I failed to see her in my own desire for power and respect. Yeah. And another area it came out, I'll just give a couple examples, was like, and I had a full-time job at the time. Yeah. And it was pretty intensive, like director of 2 departments, procurement and logistics. And it was demanding at times. And where I found myself is I was always rushing. And that's one of the worst things that you can do to a child, is rush them. Yeah. And I'm still not perfect at this. I hate rushing my daughter. But early on, and I've come so far, man. I've come so far. I used to have to catch myself. Like, why am I rushing?
Dude, I still have to catch myself.
Why am I rushing? Yeah. There's no, one of my favorite affirmations is like, I think it's 5 of them. There's nowhere to rush. I'm already here. There's nothing to be, I already am. There's nothing to do, it's already done. There's nothing to prove, it's already proven. And did I say there's nothing to be, I already am? Yeah, so those 5. But yeah, dude, like, it's been a long journey, and I just recognize that I'm rushing my daughter. I'm impatient. And by the way, like, even though I'm saying all this, I was way better than my dad was. And I think my dad would be proud of that. And I don't look down on my dad for that. My dad had his own upbringing, and I knowing my dad's parents, he was better than they were, and that's all we can hope for, is that we're better than the previous generation. You know,
it's a little better each time.
A little better each time, and yeah. So basically, committing, and it just took years. It took years, man, for me to get to a state of responding rather than reacting. And I'll tell you, like, even though I was doing breath work and I did plant medicines, kids can be triggering. That mirror can be really visceral, man. And
I'm telling you, it's something so different, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's no matter what you've worked on, like, your children will bring a mirror to things you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I'll say that, like, Alex talks about this a lot, and he's spot on, that it takes time to develop a breathwork practice that will allow you, in the moment of being triggered,
absolutely,
and feeling dysregulated, to take a deep breath and, like, literally be able to not react and create the space, create the safety within yourself first, right? Because we're so used to reacting. That's how we were parented. That's, in a lot of ways, that's how society teaches us to be too. Like, we react. But I can say it's 100% true. Like, there was a time where, even though I knew I would do breath work often, I had a good relationship with plant medicines, and I was using them very intentionally. Yeah, like, there would be times where I was just dysregulated, and I couldn't, in the moment, get away from it. I couldn't, and I would end up reacting, and, you know, what that reaction looked like was dismissing my daughter's feelings, going back to what I know, which is command and demand, dismiss, invalidate. Like, I'm the authority figure. I have the power. I need to create, like, you know, that's what I would fall back on. But now it's like, now I truly know better, and I truly can. Like, now it's like, if I am dysregulated, one, I'm aware of it. I can catch it. I see it so clearly now, because I've just been so focused on fixing these things in myself. And yeah, so now I'm a lot better.
Dude,
I'm a lot better.
I love it, man. Do you mind if we take a quick break?
Yeah.
I gotta pee, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be right back after this message from our sponsors.